I said to Bobby, what's the brief? What do you know, how do you want me to go about it? What's the plan, if you like? And he said, look, just teach them how to play football. And that's what we tried to do. You know, there was some excellent players there, fantastic players. You know, Johnny Gannon, Ian Hazel. You know, you remember them, and Vaughan Ryan and Neil Sullivan, and Scott Fitzgerald was in it with Brian McAllister. All these kids who eventually went on to play in the first team, and many more.
Well, I'm delighted to say with me now is the former Wimbledon manager, Terry Burton. Terry, what does it mean to you being back here today on Plough Lane in this stadium where you're held in such high esteem by these fans here still?
Yeah, it's obviously a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to meeting a few old friends, amongst probably the staff, and also in some of the supporters. You know, it's been a while coming. It's been 23 years almost since I left the club, and really I couldn't imagine this story going as far. You know, I was there at the trial games on Wimbledon Common, myself and David Barnard. You know, we went along on a Sunday morning and watched the initial trial games, and it's so from those really early days to where it is now, it really has been amazing. And for me, the narrative sort of changes over the years, you know, because in the early days, you know, a lot of anger about the way the club was treated by the owners, and by the FA. You know, sort of unprecedented, really, that what happened to us happened. And, you know, so you start off with a bit of anger and a bit of resentment. You know, whenever I went past on the motorway up and down, went past sort of Milton Keynes, you know, I used to close my eyes, which was dangerous, really. You shouldn't be doing that sort of thing. But as you know, as time goes by, you start to be more nostalgic, and you start to remember, you know, the many good days that I had at the club. I had 14 years. Came in '88, just, you know, literally days after the cup final, which I attended, and left in 2002. So, you know, and again, even in that time, the changes, you know, from Plough Lane, the original Plough Lane, and the porter cabins, and the changing rooms, and, you know, it's crazy because I come from the Marble Halls. Yeah. So, you know, having come from the Marble Halls and Arsenal, and then you come to Plough Lane. But, you know, I would say from day one I loved it, and it's always about people, and there were some great people there. And so from those early parts at Plough Lane, you know, and Stanley Reid, the old chairman, who was total character. You know, being at Arsenal, you knew the chairman, Dennis Hillwood, but, you know, you very rarely got to see him unless it was a Christmas party or something like that. Whereas Stanley was there on a daily basis, and you saw him, and he was a fantastic trooper and a supporter of the club. The training ground down on the Roehampton, you know, again, not the best training ground in the world, but when you think about the players that it created over those years, a fantastic achievement. And the characters, really, again, you know, for me, it's always about that. It's about the people, whether it be the players or the staff. You know, Sid Neal, the kit man, Judy Ryan, who looked after all the preparation of the cleaning of the kit. Fearsome lady who nobody wanted to cross. Sid, nobody wanted to cross. Joe Dillon, who worked with the first team on a part-time basis. But they're all the, you know, that support staff, really, that you remember with great fondness.
But what we've got achieved here now, these fans have helped build this club back again, back on Plough Lane, the stadium, having a club here back in Plough Lane. I mean, it's a unique story. You must be very impressed with that.
Yeah, as I say, you can't imagine it. You know, in the summer of 2002, down on the Roehampton, just past Richardson Evans playing field, you can't imagine where you would be, you know, 20 years later. And it's supporter-led, supporter-built. So fantastic achievement. And it really needed that, didn't it? Because no one else was going to support Wimbledon Football Club. No one was going to do anything about it. And the supporters did. And the supporters got behind it, led the way. And I'm sure now, whenever they turn up here, they're extremely proud.
So look, going back to the beginning, when you first joined Wimbledon, you said 14 years with Wimbledon. There's that link to Arsenal as well, in particular your mentor, Don Howe. What sort of memories do you have of him and how you came to join Wimbledon?
Yeah, well, it was Bobby Goulger's manager, and Don was first team coach. And I knew both of them from Arsenal. My Arsenal days, I'd worked closely with Don in that period at Arsenal. And Bobby was a player who again, I knew well. So about I think in about 87, about the Christmas time, there was a plan. They said, look, we're applying to get in the football combination. First time that they would, along with the Arsenals and Chelseas and Spurs and West Hams, etc. We're applying to get in there. If we get in there, we want a reserve team manager. So would you be interested? And I'd left Arsenal the season before. So yeah, when George Graham was there. So yeah, it was great. And fortunately they got in. So I'd sort of known from about the January, February time that I was actually going to become a member of the staff. And made a few visits down to the training ground and saw the guys, etc. So yeah, so it was the football combination. I think we finished third. And I said to Bobby, what's the brief? How do you want me to go about it? What's the plan, if you like? And he said, look, just teach them how to play football. And that's what we tried to do. Listen, there was some excellent players there, fantastic players. Johnny Gannon, Ian Hazel. You remember them, and Vaughan Ryan and Neil Sullivan and Scott Fitzgerald was in it with Brian McAllister. All these kids who eventually went on to play in the first team and many more. But that was their first year in a football combination, and slightly different style. I know it did upset some of the players. I remember Sanchez at one stage. Laurie Sanchez went to Bobby and said, look, I've been watching the reserves play. They're playing this different style of football. What's going on? And Bobby said, look, that's what I've asked Terry to do. He said, we've got our Wimbledon way. We've got our philosophy. When they come into the first team, they'll understand the style. They'll understand what they're playing. But they'll also, as we develop as a team, they'll also have another way of maybe playing. So Bobby really did gave me a free rein and really loved it. And at the same time, he talked to me about them trying to develop the academy, which again, extremely successful academy. It had been previously for Wimbledon, and then it continued, long after that as well. So I then, I think the following season, or maybe the season after, but I became the under-18 academy coach, academy manager, as it would be today, because the staff's on academy now. I don't know what Wimbledon's AFCs is like at the moment, but lots of other clubs in Cut 1s especially, and we were playing in the South East Counties in the Division 2, because you couldn't get out of it. We won it a number of times, but you couldn't get promoted. It was a sort of closed shop, the South East Counties Div 1. But yeah, some Stuart Carsterdine, who we spoke about earlier, who's a frequent visitor. Neil Ardley, came through that, but also Peter Fear. But many players that played in, Jason Ewell, Carl Court, and the list goes on really, that came through this fantastic youth system. So great memories for that, until got the call from Sam to sort of join Joe and become an assistant manager.
But over the years as well, you've spoken about the young players that came through, some of the great names in management and coaching in British football, the likes of before Bobby, Dave Bassett, then you've got, of course, Ray Harford, Dave Kemp, Mick Harford, and, of course, Joe Kinnear as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, says a lot about the club, really, because, they're the people you mentioned there are top quality. Dave, I knew, Dave Bassett, I didn't know him in his Wimbledon days, but I knew him at Watford, and we used to have a good relationship. and the coaching circuit. Obviously, Mickey Harford, a player, but then became very good, football coach and excellent football man. Ray Harford, God bless him, again was this, really nice man, but a very good coach. We briefly mentioned on Don Howe as a mentor. I mean, Don Howe, probably in my eyes, certainly the best coach that this country's had.
Yeah.
And still up till today, it would be the best coach this country's ever had, at Wimbledon Football Club. Fantastic achievement. So many of the staff, Ron Stewart,
Oh, yeah.
great man, fantastic, loyal to Wimbledon Football Club, but knew the game inside out. Just so many quality people, high caliber people that the club have had over the years, and I'm sure still have today.
And you had that production line at Arsenal, but you also, as you've touched upon there, with Wimbledon, the likes of Neil Sullivan, Chris Perry, Neil Ardley, Jason Yule. How much did it please you that they also then went on and did their coaching badges?
Yeah, it does, and as you say, there's been lots of ex-Wimbledon guys, players who have now gone into coaching. Neil Ardley has probably had a hell of a lot of experience now doing it. During the last people like Jason Yule, again excellent. Chrissy Perry, I've seen them on the circuit over the years, and they're really good football men. And with an all-round appreciation of the game, which I think is again a lot to do with their base of where they came from, and their sort of, I suppose, the habits and the beliefs that were installed during their time at Wimbledon. Not always by the staff, but by other players. That the other players were great examples and led. There was a lot of skullduggery, a lot of fun, and things that went on. But by and large, that habits of, making sure we give 100% in every game. We don't take anything lying down. It was, players that came from other clubs got introduced to those Wimbledon players and had the same beliefs as those Wimbledon and habits as those Wimbledon players, which, again, is what the club has been built on.
So look, here we are now at AFC Wimbledon, back on Plough Lane, this superb stadium. One of the aspects as well is this fantastic museum that we've got here as well. So many great memories, rightfully celebrating the history of Wimbledon. Anything that particularly stands out in your memory of your time with Wimbledon?
In terms of history?
Yeah.
There's some highs. I mean, the season when we finished sixth in what was it, 86, 87? 90, 96, 97.
A couple of semi-finals.
Yeah. So the finishing sixth would have gone into Europe had it not been for, the unfortunate disasters that were happening. Semi-finals. I mean, again, the one at Highbury, which we lost to Chelsea, unfortunately. But in the lead up to that, I mean, the most bizarre, probably football moment that I've ever experienced was stopping at Regent's Park. And we're on our way from a hotel overnight. Players were all on the coach to Highbury a little bit early. So we decided to stop at Regent's Park and have a walk. And it's during that walk, Regent's Park, these long sort of pathways that go along, Sam decided to bet the players that they couldn't beat him over 100, Sam and man, couldn't beat him over 100-metre sprint, giving him a probably 50-metre start. What other club in the world would be doing that on the eve of the... No, I don't think that had anything to do with us losing the game. I don't think it took too much out of the players. But again, it's about that, shows about that spirit, that character.
Exactly.
That camaraderie that the club had and probably will always have.
And just finally, of course, as well, I mean, your background is you've originated, of course, from Camden. Our current manager, Johnny Jackson, he's from Camden as well now. And of course his assistant, he's got working with him, Terry Skiverton. What do you make of what they're trying to achieve here now, get Wimbledon out of League Two? Yeah,
again, I think they've done a really sound job, Getting out of any league is never easy. It takes a lot of effort and other bits that go with it, in terms of finance and luck and etc. But I think they've done a really sound job. I think it's 3 years now, is it, that John's been at the club, no, in this division, but been at the club. So those things do take time. They build, you can build layer on layer. Again, I've been following it, since I left. It's always the first result that I look for. And it does seem as if, yeah, they're emerging, they're on, and that's it. You don't want to put pressure on and go, oh, this is the year they go up. But it could be. They're in a great position. And this final stretch is, again, it's always squeaky bum time for a lot of clubs. But it is the final stretch when, with a bit of good luck, keeping clear of injuries, getting injured players back fit, there's every chance that they could. They're not that far, are they, off automatic? Certainly, realistic, excellent chance of playoffs, and then you take your chance.
Terry, it's been an absolute pleasure. Great to see you back here at Plough Lane today.
Thank you. Really look forward to it.